Hello everyone and welcome to the Forbidden Jungle. This is one of the newer dungeons to Realm of the Mad God. Well, new to me at least. And it's a lower level dungeon, so the majority of you shouldn't have too much of an issue with it as long as you've got some alright gear and you're at a decent level. There's not a whole lot of difficulty to this dungeon. The mobs themselves, they've definitely got interesting attacks compared to some of the other dungeons. They're a little bit more complicated, such as the mobs that are dancing around the fire in the center there. That I thought was like a really interesting fight with each one of them because it does add the difficulty to it, but there's a way to get around that as well. If you work towards it, there's actually the fire can be destroyed in the center, which will then cause them all to kind of separate out and be a little bit less clustered together, so their heals aren't as effective. And if you're lucky, you can get one of those pollen thingamajiggers, and they'll give you 100 mana points within an area around you, very similar to the snake oils in the snake pit. And that's I think, an extremely useful item to have around if you're going to be using up a lot of mana, and you can make use of all that. You can share it with everyone around you as well, so it can be very useful. So those are good to keep an eye out for, as well as the little tribesmen that dance around the fire. With them, you're going to want to watch out for those stars, as you will notice that they give you a hallucinogen effect similar to the poison mushroom, and that will cause everything to turn into like a random sprite. So you're going to want to watch out for those because it can be a little bit disorienting. Basically, if you do get hit by it, you're just going to want to shoot everything that moves. That's probably the very best way to go about it. Let's see, as far as, there's a few other types of monsters within the Forbidden Jungle, but none of them will really give you too much of a problem. There are the basilisks, which they kind of look like creepy, spidery-ish, darker monsters, and what they tend to do is hide within the jungle itself, within the trees, so that they kind of do like hit and run tactics where they go into the jungle and then they kind of pop back out to try and attack you and then go back again. Your attacks can't penetrate through the trees, so hitting them will be a bit of an issue unless you have attacks similar to the Necromancer, where you can just do an area of effect attack that will go like over the tree line. Otherwise, you just won't be able to hit them at all, which you'll see a few times within the video. And then, besides the basilisks, there are also these totems, and they shoot out these waves of what are like darts, and those can be a bit of a pain for the melee classes because you have to getting closer, and you're gonna have to be dodging around those. And then, as well as shooting out the darts, they will spawn the little ghosts. To me, they look like the boos from Mario. But they are really not much of a pain either. You could ignore them if you wanted to. They won't do much damage to you. And I believe that covers the different types of mobs within this dungeon. And then once you get closer to the end, you'll see the final boss. And once we get a little bit closer in the video, I'll give you a little bit more information on him. It's kind of an interesting fight as well. So, talk to you guys then. So now we're getting a little bit closer towards the final boss within the Forbidden Jungle, and this guy's name is Mixcoatl the Masked God. He shouldn't be too much of a trouble for most players, but his attacks can be kind of interesting. So first off, once you start attacking him, he'll rush to the center and then start doing a spiral attack of those purple dart-looking attacks. And those are just going to go around in a spiral, and then he'll also switch to doing the fireballs that are directed at your character. And those are going to be pretty easy to dodge. You shouldn't have too much trouble with them. Once you get him down to fairly low health, he'll start doing the pulsing attack around him, the little purple waves. And then that will also trigger the towers that are spawning the ghosts to also do those wave attacks. During that time, though, you're able to drag the boss out of within the center of the map. Really, you're going to want to avoid that area entirely because that's where all the attacks are going to be focused towards, and you'll also be right in the middle of all the ghosts. So you're going to want to avoid that area. If you can stay back at all, you're going to want to do that or just drag him out. And then that's about the gist of the boss battle. There's really not a whole lot to it. He's going to drop a few different weapons that can, well, not weapons necessarily. There's one staff, one ring, one robe, the cracked crystal skull, and then pollen powders, as well as a chance of a wine cellar incantation. The wine cellar incantation is definitely going to be worth the most. You're going to want to keep an eye out for that. And then as well as a crystal serpent, the staff of the crystal serpent, which is currently worth about 2 to 3 def. The rest of the items aren't really going to be worth much. I'm not sure if the cracked crystal skull has much value to it, but it's probably not going to be worth all that much either. So as a dungeon, it's going to be pretty simple to do, but you're still going to want to be careful, and you can get some decent loot out of it. So it's definitely worth going into if you can find that dungeon. So that about wraps up the Forbidden Jungle, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and see you in the game.